Hi, everyone, and welcome to our caregiver chat. My name is Lauren Gardner. I am a behavior analyst and I work in the early intervention field here at Helping Hands. And my lovely co-host over there is.
My name is Marie. I work for the Infant and Toddler Connection of Norfolk, and then I'm also working at a nonprofit right now. I like to bounce back and forth in between jobs.
We're so glad you guys are here today. We actually just wanted to let you know that our caregiver chat series has some upcoming topics as well. So hopefully you'll join us in April and May. In April, we're going to talk about advocacy and empowerment. And this is going to be a little bit of, how to help with different rights, maybe in the school system, also getting your child's needs met. And then in May, we're going to do, what are we going to do with our kids this summer? And try to really delve into some community resources and other activities. And both of these are going to be virtual. Today is our first caregiver chat series that is virtual. So just please bear with us. Thank you guys for muting yourselves. Share your camera. We'd love to see your faces, but also understand if there's too much in the background. So please join us as we dive into this caregiver chat. Today, we're going to talk about all these skills that come before actual talking. So maybe you guys are joining us because there were concerns for your child or your neighbor or your grandchild because they're not speaking right now. So today we're going to really focus on what are some skills that we can encourage and promote to then later help with some of that spoken language.
We like to talk about a caregiver covenant when we do these classes. Please feel free to share, be honest and open. And please also feel free to take the lessons that you've learned from this caregiver chat, but please don't share anyone's personal information without asking them first. So we'd like to start out by asking you all if you have any really big questions related to or concerning language development. If you have any, you can go ahead and drop them in the chat and we will answer them as we're talking, but also at the end if we don't get all of your questions answered. And we want to give a shout out to Laura Mize. Laura Mize is a speech language pathologist, a speech therapist. She is kind of the brainchild behind these 11 skills that really anyone needs to master before language emerges. Lauren and I work a lot with toddlers, 0 through age 3. So that's kind of like our wheelhouse, but no matter where your child is, how old they are, all of these skills are super important for language development. Please take a second to write down her website or just log it in your memory bank. It's teachmetotalk.com. She has amazing videos, podcast episodes. She has free material. She has materials that you can pay for. She has a lot of wonderful ideas, and all of this stuff is heavily taken from her. So we wanted to make sure that we give her credit.
So before we jump into these skills that are going to promote some talking, do you guys know that language really is divided up into kind of two core parts? So two types of language, and we need both of these for talking and for words to emerge. Anybody want to give an idea or a shout out on what the two types of language are?
Nicole.
Woohoo! Shelby got it. Thank you, Shelby. So it's receptive and expressive language. And both of these are important. It's more than just words. And we're going to talk about each of them before we get into the skills. The first being receptive language. So this is the ability to understand what words mean. This will help with following directions, identifying items out in the community or in books, labeling things. And this is important because a child has to first understand the meaning before we can expect them to actually say it. And usually this one we'll dive into a little bit, but this one may emerge a little sooner than some of the other component of language, expressive language. So the next one is expressive language. And this is what a lot of people just kind of think all language is. But yes, this is kind of how we communicate and use words to get our needs met. And this is more than just talking, because expressive language could be different modes of communication for those who are non-vocal. It may be sign language, it may be pictures. There's some awesome communication devices out there, but this is, yes, expressing those words, one mode or another, and how we, ask questions, make conversation. This will help with some of those social interactions as well. So again, two parts of language, and we really need to work on skills to develop both of these, and both are important. This little chart kind of breaks down the little differences of them. Again, I kind of touched on with receptive language. It usually occurs a little earlier. So if you have a young child, you might be wanting to look at some of these skills that are more in the receptive language area. And just note that, if there is a delay in the receptive language, most likely there will be a little bit of a delay in the expressive language, but we can try to work on catching both of those up.
So let's go ahead and dive into what will help build both receptive and expressive language skills. And skill number one is reacts to events in the environment. That's important because responding to things that are going on around us is the foundation for interacting and communicating. So some beginning strategies that you all can do at your house with your kids, help your child use their senses to explore. We love sensory bins. Sensory bins are something easy that you can put together in a small Tupperware, a large Tupperware, and a box. Let your child explore things that they can touch, taste, that are safe for them to taste, feel, see, smell. When you hear a fire truck go by, acknowledge it. When the dog or the cat comes into the room, acknowledge it. It's okay for kids to explore, and it's wonderful when you can offer new experiences often. So you are in charge of what your children have access to. So we're definitely not suggesting that you go out and buy new toys all the time, but perhaps you can kind of rotate their toys out. So sometimes they have access to, like, the fire truck with the little blocks that you can drop in. When they get bored of that, put that in the closet, bring out a different toy that they can use different senses to explore, so they don't get bored with what they already have.
The next skill is responds to people when they talk to or play with them. So this is important because communication always involves that exchange. So we want to make sure that they're somehow responding, either by turning or looking. Does the child seem to enjoy when others are playing with them or in the room with them? This might be seen as like when the child brings a toy to somebody else or touches them or looks at them. So again, we really want to see that response of when someone enters the room or talks or says their name or plays with them. Some ways to promote this would be, obviously we want kids to be able to play independently and stuff, but don't let them kind of check out for too long. Join, try to make yourself seem fun. Give the child a reason to include you in their routine or in their play. Do what they like to do. Join in. They like, rolling that ball back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Join in on that, and then just try to see, like, if you turn your head, do they tap you to get that ball back? You know, get down on their level, really try to get that interaction. Silly faces, silly sounds. Those are ways we can promote this skill.
Skill number 3 is taking turns with you during interactions. Turn taking is how all of us become interactive and conversational. And some easy ways that you can do this at home: treat your child's actions as if they are purposeful towards you. Even if they're not trying to communicate with you, you can get down on their level. You can interject yourself into what they're doing. You can play trading games with everyday objects like blocks, cars, drinks, playing peekaboo with them. You can join in and take turns with them so you're included. Like if they're playing in the kitchen, you can say, oh, can mommy have something to drink? Can grandma have something to drink? You can make sure that you kind of interject yourself into their play. Like Lauren said, don't let them check out for too long. It's okay for kids to play by themselves because you guys need a break, and we understand that. But don't let them check out for too long. Try to find simple, silly little ways that you can interject yourself into their play.
And then we want to develop a longer attention span. And parents out there, isn't this hard? It's like they touch a toy and move right on. So this is important because attention is the gatekeeper for learning any new skill. If we're not in the moment attending to what's going on, we're not going to be able to acquire those necessary tools and skills. Um, so this is tough, especially in the younger years, because their attention span is going to be shorter. So just remember that with age and stuff. But this is developing a larger attention span in activities alone, so that independent play, but even a longer attention span in activities with others. So if they were building blocks with an older sibling, we would want to see that to be, okay, we're going to build more than just one tower eventually and stuff. Again, this is hard to promote, but some strategies to kind of help this is, yes, limit screen time. And I get it. I'm a parent. I know how valuable those tablets are and how it gives me a chance to do the dishes. So use those screens as a tool when you need it, but do limit it because that has been shown to affect kind of the attention and focus of young children. Movement activities can really help develop a longer attention span. So play chase, not just one time around the couch. Let's go 5 times around the couch. Start, with some of our early learners adding numbers, like we're gonna do this 10 jumping jacks instead of just 2 jumping jacks. You could add some numbers, some counting. Um, Starting with their preferred activities is a way to start too, their interests. So if you have a child who really loves cars, I wouldn't then start with the baby doll to then, oh, we're going to sit here and play this for 10 minutes. Start with cars, see what you can do more with cars. Oh, we're going to take the cars in the kitchen and upstairs and stuff. Also, one concept and phrase that you could start using is one more. We're going to do one more puzzle piece, or we're going to read one more book. That's a gradual way to extend an activity, thus extending that attention and focus.
Skill number 5 is shifts and shares joint attention with others. And why this is important is kids learn to understand words and talk by listening to the important things that other people want to share. And joint attention is really the ability for your child to pay attention to you and something else at the same time. So playing with that car at the same time, doing that puzzle at the same time, acknowledging the dog or cat coming into their room at the same time, and ways that you can kind of help bolster this skill at home. Like I mentioned earlier, putting yourself in your child's line of vision, teaching them to give you objects during daily routines. Dolores, I saw that you shared that you have a 17-month-old who is saying mama and dada and doggy, but really hasn't added any new words yet. So I'm wondering if something that you can do, what we do with our early intervention kids a lot, we label those things that they need all the time, like cup, like your book, your blanket, tablet, any of those words that your kid is using or that your kid sees every day, make that part of your routine and ask them, can you go get your cup? And give them the cup. Here's your cup. Saying that word over and over and over again might help them learn it a little bit faster. But you can have them give you bubbles. You can have them give you the book, the blanket, really taking the time to label all of those things that they see every day. And you can play games like peekaboo, hide and seek, and point and gesture often to direct their attention. So maybe there are cups on the table. Oh, there's your cup. I see your cup. Can you get me your cup? You've said cup 3 times in the past, 10 seconds. So they've heard that word a lot.
Skill number 6 is playing with a variety of toys in their intended function. So kind of more appropriately, so having the car go back and forth on the floor, or, feeding the baby doll and stuff. This is important because children learn most everything through play. Remember, play is their work, their job. And side note, we are going to have a little recorded caregiver chat on play. It was actually our first caregiver chat back in the fall. So tune into that one if you want to learn more about some play ideas. But again, playing with a variety. This is important because it will help increase that exposure to new words, new ways to do things. So ways to promote this, not only rotating toys and stuff, but also just using a variety of like familiar objects. Like, if you gave them a spoon and a Tupperware, would they bang on it like a drum? Would they stir it like they've seen you stir? If they had a cup, would they pretend to feed you the drink, or the baby doll the drink? So toys, rotating those, but also using familiar objects. So to encourage this variety, model how to use the toy. So getting down again and playing, because that's their job, and showing them how a toy might work. Like, oh, you have to push this button for it to pop open, or we put this shape in here. Getting them used to the way something works can be very, very important. And Marie actually has a very neat story about this.
One of my families that I worked with in early intervention, I went over to see them one day, and early intervention takes place in the family's home or another familiar environment for the child. So we were in their living room, and mom was really upset because the girl, who was 2.5, hadn't started playing with the baby stroller that they bought her for her birthday. And it was Minnie Mouse, and they were so excited to buy it for her because they knew that she was going to love it. And they were really frustrated that she wasn't playing with it. And I just kind of looked at them and I said, well, have you shown her what to do with it? And they looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language and had 10 heads. And I asked them if I could show them what I meant, and they said yes. And so I, had the girl come over and put her hands on the handles of the stroller and showed her how to push it. And, she started to go, and I said, like, go, 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 go. And she pushed the stroller across the room to her mom. Her mom burst out into tears because she had never played with her stroller before. So like Lauren said, playing is their job. It's their career right now. But remember, when you started your first job, you needed to be trained. You needed to be shown what to do. So even if you think your child might already know what to do, it never hurts to show them, to take a little bit of extra time to show them what to do. So skill number 7 is understanding early words and following simple directions. A child must understand words before he or she can use those words to talk and communicate. So how many times have you told your child to do something and they don't listen, or they say their favorite word, which is no? They really need to have a good understanding of language before they can give it back to you. So another way that you can do that is, like I said, don't let your kids check out for too long. Stay with them, narrate everything you do. It might seem kind of silly, Now mommy's going to get your cup. She's going to put some water in your cup. Mommy's going to put the lid on your cup. Here's your cup. It's time to go to the park. Let's go get your shoes on. Breaking down big tasks into smaller tasks, labeling everything you're doing is a really good way for kids to pick up on more language. And keep your language simple. You don't need to necessarily use baby talk, but break it down. Go get your shoes. Let's put your shoes on, tie your shoe, hold my hand. And then include them in the routines. Instead of going to get everything to go to the park, maybe have them go get their jacket, have them go get their shoes. It takes a lot longer, and that's not always an option when you are trying to get out the door. But if you have that extra time to build in some time for them to be a little bit more responsible, I think that's helpful. And then also the last one, tell them, show them, help them. Tell them, go get your shoes. If they can't do that, then you can show them where their shoes are. And if they still can't get them, then you can help them get them, kind of scaffold the routines that you expect them to do to set them up for success.
Shelby, great comment. See, just seeing if they can, like, throw it away. They've seen you throw it away. Maybe you even have said it. Oh, gotta throw away your diaper, and that's great. So yeah, kind of you can start testing out some of these directions or routines that you've probably been modeling for them. So skill number 8 is vocalizing or making sounds purposefully. And, this is really when we are babbling or making some shouts and sounds around others, or maybe if someone's not even in the room, but it's like during play, or maybe to get someone's attention. But no one is going to be able to emit words if we can't produce some of these sounds initially. We have a cute little video. So again, didn't say any word, but and the dad gave him something, so that's what's going to come first, is just that kind of babbling, noisy, making sounds. So ways to encourage this. And again, Dolores, it sounds like your child is already forming the actual words, but even kind of going back to this step and like keep vocalizing just some parts of words, but making a lot of silly noises while you do things, in play. So room, 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 or the doggy, like woof, 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 just making animal sounds, seeing if they will do anything back with you. But also when they make a sound, and if we showed more of that video clip, the dad like even goes, back to the boy. So you can even imitate some of their sounds that they make. And, yes, be silly, be playful. Also just kind of changing the scenery, changing the environment, getting outside and making silly sounds with the animal or vehicle noises. It could just, help kind of gain some different exposure. Singing songs. I think somebody just kind of added that into the chat too, but like singing songs like in car rides, on walks, making up things while you're washing the dishes, just repeating scrub, 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 bath time, that kind of stuff, just making some splash, 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 silly noises. And then maybe the kid will then start vocalizing purposefully, like in the bath, because they want that splash, splash, splash. So yeah, you were saying, that you, and during your screen time, that you guys dance and sing. And, I again, screen time is a tool. I'm not saying it would be harmful and stuff, but I think, use that if it's working for your family, but also maybe add your singing and dancing when the screen's not around too.
I think one of the things that I do like about screen time is when families use it together. And I can't remember who it was, but one of the other educators that I worked with said the only kind of good screen time is one where you're interacting with your child while they're watching it. Um, I think that's a great idea. I think if you're doing, and that's kind of like that joint attention, right? Is like your child paying attention to what's on the screen and then also to what you're doing, and then being able to do that together. I think that's very cool. And so the next one, number 9 is imitating actions, gestures, sounds, and words. And a lot of the kids that we work with in early intervention have a difficult time sometimes imitating things that people in the room are doing, but they will imitate it when they see it on a screen. And so I think, like Lauren said, using it as a tool and then being able to kind of do the same things that maybe you did on the TV once the TV's off to get that your child imitating you too. I think it's great. So why imitation is so important. Toddlers learn how to talk by repeating what other people say, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. I love that Shelby's 18-month-old, follow the direction of going to throw the diaper away. Your kids, they're watching, they're listening to everything that's going on, whether it's good or bad. And so a lot of times kids will repeat everything they hear, and especially the words that we don't want them to repeat. But some things that you can do to kind of help bolster the imitation in your house is don't always start with words, but start with the actions. Like start with the clapping, the stomping. If you're happy and you know it is a great song to work on imitation. The Wheels on the Bus is another really good one to work on imitation. And the Wheels on the Bus is a really good one to use, like expectant waiting or wait time. The kids know how things go. They know what's coming next. So if you stop and wait for them to maybe fill in that blank for you, that might be a nice way to get them to do some imitation. So the wheels on the bus go up, and maybe they'll go like this, maybe they'll sit down, maybe they'll say down. Bingo is another really good one to use with that strategy, but doing something that they're familiar with, that they know, and like leaving part of it out, giving them some time to fill in the blank, can be a really good prompt to get them to imitate for you.
Skill number 10, using early gestures like waving or pointing. So this is a little different than that imitation one, but related. And this is more for using some gestures in a communicative or social way. And typically, we see some of these types of gestures kind of right before that word may emerge. So we might see the wave before we hear the bye-bye. So going back to skill number 9, imitating actions, and seeing how Marie highlighted, we start with just getting them to copy our movements. So let's start modeling some of those more communicative or social gestures or actions. Pointing can be a great thing for like getting someone's attention, like, look, I saw the doggy, or I want that. So ways to kind of do this is I'm doing it right now. I talk with my hands, using lots of gestures when you're talking, like when you're reading a book, don't just turn the page, point to the picture. When you're on a walk, have a big wave to the mailman, kind of exaggerate those actions. You can teach them just, again, some of these movements like clapping, like when Big Brother does something, yay, getting him, again, that's a more social communicative gesture. High five, and then like shaking their head, like maybe you offered them something at dinner and they didn't want it. Oh, no, no, no. And again, kind of exaggerating it. Blowing kisses. Yes, Shelby's a great one. So again, these kind of early gestures that have more of that like social communicative tone. That's the next skill to kind of look at. And usually, again, we'll see some of those before you get that word associated with the gesture.
So skill number 11, our last skill, initiates interaction with others to get their needs met or to play. And why this is important, we can't depend on other people to approach us or know what we want, like after a certain age, right? Like infants, we know what infants need. They cry to let us know what they need. But, we can't just expect people to get our needs met or to meet our needs without knowing what they are. So we need to approach other people to ask for help. So a couple of ways that you can work on this at your house, I always like to set kids up for success, because we want them to be successful. We want them to get good self-esteem and be able to accomplish smaller tasks so then they can accomplish more difficult tasks. I'm really focused on the cup right now. So if you have their cup, you can put it up on the shelf out of reach. You could put it over across the baby gate in the kitchen so they can see it, but they can't get to it. So they have to get your attention to help them get to their cup. So setting up the things that they like, having the remote on top of the TV. So maybe they can't reach it. So they have to ask you to turn the TV on or to turn the tablet on. Also, you can withhold your attention, which is the nicer way of saying ignore them. If they're not asking you in the right way, or if they're not using some words that they know how to use, you can withhold attention until they initiate communication with you in an appropriate way.
So let's recap. We just went through 11 skills, 11 skills related to receptive and expressive language, that are going to promote that talking and words emerging in communication. Again, this is broken down by Laura Mize, a speech language pathologist, and she's really trying to show and highlight that these need to be seen and developed in order to get more spontaneous words and for that talking to, emerge. And maybe you're seeing some of these skills, but then go back and does that skill need to be strengthened? Do you need to be able to see it in a variety of settings, maybe more consistently? All of that, building upon each skill a little more, should hopefully help with the development of those words emerging more spontaneously, more often, building that vocab and that repertoire. So hopefully, we gave you Laura Mize's website. She does have books and resources and blogs, and there's other speech language pathologists who also have a ton out there. And we'll be, sending some of this stuff out following the event too, just as resources. Um, you know, when you're looking at this, looking at, why it's important, hopefully we highlighted some of that, but then looking at how can you build this into your daily routines. And obviously we focus a lot on play routines because that is the child's job and their work. So hopefully we gave you some ideas on how to encourage these. If your child is not talking yet or not talking as much as you'd like, go back to the chart, go back to kind of looking at what can I do to kind of make that situation happen. Marie had already kind of highlighted some other ideas where you're repeating the word, like her cup example. You repeated it 3 times before you handed them that cup of milk that they wanted. Bringing items up to your mouth can help too, to really let them see how your mouth is moving, putting it in that silly, songy kind of tone. There's a lot of evidence out there for that kind of repetitive rhythmic stuff. So obviously nursery rhymes are big, but also those books that are repetitive and rhythmic, like Brown Bear, what do you see? It kind of has that same thing. You can clap it out with the kid. And building on just again within your daily activities, your daily routines, like narrating it and telling them what you're doing because they're sponges. Shelby's example was perfect. She, has probably thrown away the diaper a million times and okay, I'm going to give you a turn. Let's see what you do. and creating the opportunities too, like, maybe your child loves bath time. Well, let's go in the bathroom, but, don't put the water in there yet. Maybe try to get them to, like, point to the faucet. There's your gesture. Or if they're starting to have some vocalization, "Ah, ah, ah," for water, or maybe they have a word, "wah-wah," or a sign for it. Just kinda creating those opportunities too can help kinda encourage them to use those words and build that confidence.
I have a question.
Yes.
I put it in the chat. Do these happen in order or can they happen all at the same time?
Oh, great question. So back to the chart and these 11 skills. Um, Most likely they are going to kind of happen in this order and grow upon each other, just because, like, the prime example there is like the number 9 to number 10, imitating just kind of like any actions, like, banging a spoon, but then we're going to imitate waving, that social gesture. However, I say, like, kind of in this gradual step process with language development, especially in the early years, there's sometimes can be just kind of that overlapping stuff. So you might be like, "Oh my God, we're doing number 3 and 4 already," and that's perfectly typical. You might have these big bursts too, where the kid starts copying everything, and then you kind of like lag a little bit. And that is also normal, and that's okay because their brain just went through this big tremendous growth of, like, taking in all this information from you and the environment and using it, and now they're just kind of gaining some more and going back to being sponges. But yes, it is kind of a gradual step, and this is so if you're looking at the chart and you're saying, "Well, we're not even at step, 2," so maybe just start at step 1 and go back to 2 and gradually move on from there. But again, there might be some overlap with some of them, and I'm not saying you can't work on multiple skills similarly. I just wouldn't go, working on number 2 and then going to number 10. Great question. Um, so going over these skills, and these are ways to really promote those words to emerge. And hopefully, again, kind of trying to give you some extra strategies, some other ideas, and just taking a step back from say this, why weren't you talking? Kind of taking a step back and really seeing, okay, we got to build on this, or I got to do this a little more often. If you've tried these things, please look at these developmental milestones. There's a great website. They even have a app tracker. um, you can look on based on age. Every kid grows and develops differently. I don't want you to go check these out and panic and say, my kid's not doing this yet. Remember, they have a whole year to be doing some of these things, so it's not right on their second birthday they have to have this x money number of words. It's through that second year of life they're building upon these words. But use this as a resource, as a guide to kind of assess, where are we? Okay, I've been doing some of these things and I'm seeing these skills, but I'm not seeing those. And please, seek your pediatrician's opinion. If you feel like you really need some help, obviously there's early intervention. If your child is younger than 3, there's also school supports for like 2.5, 3-year-old and older. And then there's, of course, outpatient speech therapy that works on that kind of both language development, and you could get a referral from your doctor. So Marie and I would never want you to be like, well, I attended this talk and there's nothing to be concerned about. I mean, you are the parent, the caregiver. You know your child best, and trust that gut if you really feel like there is a concern and you've looked at maybe this chart and used some of these ideas and you're still not seeing progress. Again, you guys are the experts. So um I think we wanted to go into some questions now, and let's chat. Huh?
Does anyone have any questions about anything that we have not touched on or anything that we kind of sped through. This went a lot faster virtually than when we have people here in person. And this is stuff that Lauren and I talk about all the time. So if there's anything that we kind of went through and did not do a good job explaining it, or you want clarification or more examples, or if you want us to troubleshoot like a specific thing that's going on in your family, we're more than happy to do that. We'll give you guys a couple minutes to get your thoughts together.
Hey guys, I have 2 questions. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So the 18-month-old that I'm referring to is 3 months delayed. She was a premature infant. So I wanted to know your thoughts on like global delay for prematurity and how that relates to speech, like, and overall language development.
We know that that kiddos that are born premature are going to have some expected delays. And really their doctors and NICU clinic people say they'll be caught up by 18 months. That doesn't always happen. So I think, and especially with kids who are premature, the physical kind of development is happening first, and then that language development takes a back seat. So it is not uncommon to see maybe some larger delays in language while their bodies are still catching up, and to kind of have them catch up with the language. The important thing is that they're meeting those developmental milestones in order. That's more important than when they're doing it, but the fact that they're doing it in order is what's important. And then I'll let Lauren add.
You really actually knocked it out of the park. I was going to bring up the physical piece. So usually in our premature kiddos, like they're just kind of catching up motor wise sometimes a little faster than that language and cognition. But what Marie said, like if you're feeling like developing kind of still in that progression and order, that's what I would be looking at. So for her, really like kind of what you tested, that receptive language, how sorry, I said she, I don't know if it is she, how is, how are they doing with the receptive language piece? And then, kind of, we can look at, okay, now building up that expressive language. But yeah, Marie knocked it out of the park.
Thank you. Good explanations. It's a she. I have 2 girls, so good assumption. My second question was, and I should probably know this, but I don't. How do you encourage the step between saying one word and 2-word combos? Like at what age does that typically emerge?
So we're going to start to see that, anywhere between that 21 to 25 months. And you're going to encourage it similarly to like modeling, doing the stuff, and then like kind of like withholding, trying to get the second phrase. So, simple carrier ones are easy, like, more juice, mama come, those kind of ones. And I would, just build on really simple ones first. I don't know age exactly there, but like they'll start to add some adjectives too, like blue cup, that kind of stuff. But we want to really start seeing it in that 2nd to 3rd year of life, like just more free, 2 to 3 word combos.
Thank you.
And I think even with kids who are not born premature, oftentimes you'll see one like motor skills or communication skills kind of blossoming while the other one takes a back seat, and that's okay. Their brains can't do both at the same time. And so for kids who were born right on time, we see the same thing. So like Nicole said in the chat, like forward progression is key.
And please also don't, put too much weight into this as well, but just know there are gender differences with the way we develop too. But it's not something to be like, oh, well, I have a boy, so he's never going to talk. No, no, boys obviously talk, and there is forward progression and stuff like that. But there can be, from their, prematurity status to their gender to, different factors that can be impacting. But forward progression and kind of doing it, you're seeing that receptive language and that expressive language both coming.
Well, thank you for coming, Dolores.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to try to send out the PowerPoint. You can't click on the links, the hyperlinks that we included, but I did want to mention, because I can't figure out how to share my screen again with the PowerPoint pulled up, but the CDC milestone website, but also they have an app that you can download on your phone, and you can put in your child's birthday, and you can do multiple children. And so you put in your child's birthday and it calculates how old they are. And they're like, oh, your child is 18 months. So you should probably be seeing A, B, and C. If you're not seeing that, these are some skills you can try or some strategies you can try. And then if you don't see any development in those skills, you should maybe call your pediatrician. So it kind of helps keep track of where your child ought to be. But also, like Lauren said, and like I've said before, like every child's different. They all develop at a different pace. And if you have one child, the second one, the third one might not develop the same way. But that forward progression is key. So as long as you're making forward progress, it's good. But the app kind of helps you see where your child should be within a couple months. So a lot of our families use that and they find it pretty helpful. Do you have anything else, Lauren?
Just again, thank you guys for attending. This did go quicker than our in-person ones, and thank you for being our first virtual, but the rest are going to be virtual. We were thinking this might be more manageable for participation. Would love to maybe in the chat get your thoughts on any topics of interest that would be helpful as a caregiver. We have done some already and plan on having those available through the website via recording. But any topics that would be available, and also you guys could give us some feedback on the time. We've gone back and forth on evenings versus Saturday mornings. Just if you were to attend another one, what would you like to be addressed, and what would be a better day or time? Oh, awesome. Evenings. Okay, good to know. Yeah, we, like I said, gone back and forth about evenings and bedtimes and mornings, and so I appreciate that. Oh, great. Oh, good. Okay. Anything toddler related. I love it. Yes, recordings. Yep. And we love anything toddler related. That is what we do. When you start asking me about teenagers, I run. Great idea. I like that. The self-regulation, coping, that kind of stuff.
We talked about that a little bit with the behavior series that we did. because behaviors are just, a child's attempts to get their needs met. And so we talked a little bit about doing self-regulation, but it's so big. We could absolutely fill a whole entire hour and a half with that. That's a great idea.
Thank you guys all for attending. There will be some resources sent out again.
And if anybody wants to hang out, we're gonna stop recording. If anybody wants to ask any other questions, Lauren and I will stay on for a couple minutes. And if not, everyone have a wonderful evening, and we hope to see you at the next one.